Remix, the video podcast that keeps you in the mix of everything real estate. I am Noelle Frieson, and we are here with our power panel today. We have Eric Anderson, who is CEO of Alexander Anderson and my personal guru. And we also have Nima Ameri, who is managing partner of Ameri law firm, and I love to call him my rock star deal maker. So in the past few weeks, we have gotten a ton of DMs, emails, phone calls of people wanting to know more about how to build wealth through leveraging property. Everyone wants to know, how can I make the money and how can I invest? So today, we are going to be talking about how to build your empire through leveraging property, which is great because I want to build mine, right? But first, in that strain, I think Eric has something that's been going on with owning property, because we're here in the Northeast. I know you guys are all over the country, but we're here in the Northeast and it's cold. It is freezing. I woke up to 10 degrees. So what have you been dealing with?
Heat problems. Exciting.
Brr.
So
Get it?
Either you're too hot or you're too cold. I think the most fun heat problem that we're dealing with right now in one of our properties is we have the heat on and the air conditioning on at the same time. Talk about like deal kill, especially when you're the one paying for the utility bill. So we're trying to figure and work that one out, and it's been an expensive, challenging proposition, and it's very stressful. And you know, when you have big properties, like this building is probably 40,000 square feet, so the gas and electric bills are like $1,500 to $3,000 a month, and you know, when you walk in and you're sweating, and then you see the heat on and the air conditioning's on, and the system is so old, and you don't know what the hell you're doing, it's just a lot of fun.
So how are you rectifying it?
Call the plumber. And the problem is that all the plumbers that are out there, some have different levels of experience. This specific property that we're dealing with is a 1930s property. So, you know, you have, let's say, younger plumbers that are like 20 and 30 years old. They don't have the experience that, let's say, an older plumber who's maybe 50 or 60 would have. And, you know, you can't necessarily just send a plumber to a property. You have to go, you have to learn, you have to listen, you have to make sure that you understand what's happening. So a great tool out there today, and everybody I'm sure knows about this, is YouTube. So you can Google anything and you can find it on YouTube and you can learn about it. And one of the things, a tip for everybody, if you're going into a situation where you have to have something fixed or where you have a problem, you know, in the middle, like you're going to bed and you have an hour before you're going to fall asleep, start Googling, how do I rectify this heat issue, or talk about it and send out different words and then look at the videos, and it just gives you a baseline to try to understand what's happening and to understand what's going on, and it helps greatly. It gives you credibility with that plumber if they don't know you. It helps them not overcharge you. It helps you kind of analyze, because you may know the building a little better than they do. You know, it depends on the situation, but
so basically, don't go in cold.
What kind of? That was funny.
That was funny.
Thank you.
What kind of heat do you have there? Is it HVAC? Is it steam? Is it hot water?
Steam boiler.
Well, right there you go. That's why you're having difficulty controlling the heat, and you're not going to be able to fix it. So,
well, thanks for that positive.
so look, guys, this kind of
SOL.
There's a chair over there for you.
The timeout chair. So, guys, this ties into know your product, know what you're buying, right? So, there's heating in properties has been an evolution, just the same way as an engine has, right? It's kind of a similar concept. So, steam is how most buildings were heated. It was the evolution from your fireplace. You know, next came steam. And with steam boilers, what happens is you build up pressure, steam is released, and that is how the property gets heated. It is almost impossible to control the temperature in different rooms. Every room has a radiator, right? And there are usually these beautiful cast iron things that come up because, you know, it wouldn't rust and it can handle the pressure. And, you know, you could change it, you can play with it, you can change the pressure, but at the end of the day, steam is notorious for being inconsistent. So your options there would be what? You'd either have to do a conversion and run PEX and do a hot water system.
Are you doing that?
Or you're going to have to go HVAC.
So, since Nima is an expert on heating, we actually have each individual system has controls on it. Some of the controls are not working. So basically, he has valid points where it's very hard to control steam, but they make controls that literally just shut off the amount of pressure that can go into that radiator section. And there are certain controls that are not working. So when it's not working, it's just like full heat 24/7 whenever the actual boiler is on. So that's our phase 1 of tackling. Phase 2, this building also has a 1930s air conditioning system.
Did they have air conditioning in the 1930s?
Dry
They
ice
did.
in the basement.
They did. So this system is so old that it's like the air conditioner is like the size of a school bus in the basement, and you can actually, if you've ever envisioned like walking on the moon or like a moon chamber for like testing an astronaut suit, there's like a room that you walk in, and it's just like sound deadening, and that's part of the HVAC system. It's pretty crazy. So we're actually putting in individual air conditioning HVAC systems in each tenant's space. So probably a year from now, we're going to have a secondary heating system. So we could eventually shut off the entire steam system if we had to, and then give each suite the individuality of control.
So are you going to go with the ductless system then?
No, we're doing ducts.
Okay.
All ducks. All our ducks in a row. Well, that just puts us into, how did you get these buildings? How did you leverage these things? How do you know so much about this? Because you've had several buildings. So I'm going to back us up, and we're going to talk about what is leveraging property. Because I have to say, for years, for over a decade, Eric has been telling me, oh, you just buy this and you refi and you pull your money out. And I was like, I totally have no idea, you're talking Greek to me. Don't bother my pretty little head, right? But I want to understand, cheers, I drank mine. I want to understand what is leveraging property, and they want to understand because they want to make money.
You can start.
So this is a super interesting topic. We actually touched on it, I think it was 2 episodes ago, when we started getting heavy into numbers about whether to keep.
That's why everyone was asking us, well, how do I do it?
Yeah. So there's going to be multiple schools of thought. So I'll do my best to remain neutral and just explain what leveraging property is. If you have something worth $10, right? And let's think really, really simple, right? You have something worth $10 and you own it, and you want to buy something else that's $10. Well, you don't have any more money because you spent all your money on the first thing. And we're not saying you bought it outright cash. You saved up, you financed that $10, your iPhone, you financed it, say $100. You financed it, and a couple of years have gone by, you've paid it off, and now you have all this liquidity in it again because the debt's gone. But you haven't had an opportunity to save up to buy another. So you're thinking, well, what am I going to do? Because I have this 100% paid off item, and I want to buy more. So you go and you borrow against that again, right? But when you take that money, because now it's debt free, you don't put that money in your pocket as a personal amount of money. You use that to buy another asset. So now you have one asset that has debt on it. Your first phone that was debt free now has debt. Say you get about 80%, 75% of the value of that phone, so you get $7.50. Then you go and you buy another phone that's $10. Now you have $7.50 because you took it from this phone and you put it towards that other phone. Now you can then put the other $2.50 yourself, and you can now own that 100%. Or now this is going to get tricky, guys. So remember, picture your first phone, and now I'm drawing lines. There's a line here, phone 2, right? Phone 2. You can buy phone 2 100% outright, or only borrow $2.50 against it because you took $7.50 from phone 1. Or you could take that $7.50 and divide it by 3. So you have $2.50.
Oh my God, my head is starting to hurt.
$2.50, right? $2.50, 3 times is $7.50. And you can buy 3 $10 phones. Because to get a loan, you need 25% down. And what's 25% of $100? $25.
Okay.
$10 is $2.50.
Yes. So I could either buy one property, or I could buy 3 properties that's taking on more debt.
Correct. Now there's 2 types of debt, right?
Hold on, before you get there.
Okay. So now you have 4 properties.
Why would you want to do that?
Why you want to do that?
Yeah.
It's because you want to build long-term wealth.
So when you have a rising tide, which real estate typically goes up, instead of your rising tide on one property, right? You now have rising tide on or how many you bought?
4.
You bought 4 phones? So all 4 phones are going up in value.
And we call that appreciation.
Now wait, what I wasn't getting these past literally 10 years, it's literally been 10 years until last night when it all clicked, is that phone, you need to rent that phone out to cover the debt that you've now accumulated on that phone, right?
So on all of them. Now this is, look, that sounds easy. Anyone who hears it says, wow, that's so easy. Probably most of you guys on Instagram see ads, become a millionaire with other people's money, and they sell you on this process because it's simple math. But then you have to think about, now you have 4 properties that require debt service because now you no longer own any of them outright. Now, each of those needs to be individually rented, and you need something that's called an equilibrium. What does that mean? That means your cost of money, the cost to borrow, that $7.50 on these 3 properties, has to be less than the return on the investment. So if your money costs 3 to 4%, you need to be making at least 10%. So you have a 6% spread, right? Because what's 10 minus 4 is 6. A 6% spread for either profit allocation, reimbursement towards that $250 that you now divvied up to pay off the first loan, or a savings fund to take that 3 and turn it into 6 after you paid them off.
And to dumb that down, that's called cash flow.
Cash flow.
Correct.
Cash flow. What's left over after you pay your mortgage and your expenses?
So let me just get this straight. I have a house, right? I have equity in that house. I take a loan against the equity, right? I then rent that, and let's say my loan I'm paying, $500 a month in a mortgage now. I go rent that out for $1,500 a month, so I'm now putting $1,000 in my pocket, and I'm paying $500 to the mortgage.
Oh.
But then I take the money that I took out of that house, and then I go buy something else where it's really cheap, I fix it up, and then I rent that out, and I just keep on doing that, and every one that I do that with, I'm putting a little bit of money on my pocket. Get it, guys? I'm gonna have to quit my job.
That's called leverage.
That's okay.
But
You got it.
Wait, how do I start this? I only have 50 grand.
well, let's talk about how the other shoe can drop,
Oh no.
right?
No
So
shoes.
everyone remembers good old Domino's, right?
Domino's Pizza?
No, the game.
Ah.
Yeah.
I
Who even
thought
remembers? Domino's still around. So, all right. So Domino's, if one falls, all fall. And what a lot of people think is it's that easy, but it's not, because there's very intricate factors. You don't have $1,000. You have cost of maintenance on that original property.
Okay. Well, we're gonna get there
He's
to
getting
the
into the
to the
nitty-gritty,
pitfalls.
but he's right. There's not, it's not as clean as Noelle says, but just for this discussion purpose, we can keep it clean.
We're gonna get to the pitfalls.
so-
Let's not go through the pitfalls yet.
Oh, one pitfall.
Okay, one pitfall.
What happens when one of them stops paying rent?
Kick their butts out and
And
you find someone else.
that takes how long?
It depends. If it's coronavirus time and it's a residential tenant, it could take 2 years.
Now you have 4 mortgages, and if you add up 3, even with the spread, you may not have enough to cover all 4. You may lose them all.
So you really need to be saving your money when you bring it in.
You need to check the leverage. You need to have a cushion.
Okay.
Okay?
And Eric will talk more about the, I think, leverage and the cushion on that leverage. Like I said, there's different schools of thought, and while I know the leverage game, I have yet to partake in it.
But isn't that what you were doing? We had this property. He was going to hold it or he was going to sell it. He decided to hold it, but then he got a better offer, and then he read a love letter and he sold it to the first person. Long story.
This is exactly what happened.
Isn't that what you were doing? You were leveraging it when you were going to hold it?
So that was my intention,
Right.
right?
You did.
Because I know the process and I know it makes sense.
Right.
And for me, carrying that mortgage was less than a car payment.
Okay.
But ultimately, I didn't do it.
He drives really nice cars. So less than a car payment for him is our monthly budget for us, guys. But go ahead.
So ultimately, I didn't do it, and I've actually really yet to do it.
Okay. Okay.
I know it's the right thing to do. I know it's the right
so you
approach.
don't need to talk. So then I'll talk. So I think leveraging is an amazing tool to get you to somewhere that you want to be. Depending on your, and I'm not PC, so just so everybody understand that. Depending on your age, depending on your capabilities, depending on the risk factors that you have. So if you're a single mom with 5 kids, you have 5 kids to take care of. So it's going to be much more difficult for you to start something because you have to take care of those 5 kids. If you're a guy that has no kids and no wife, or a woman that has no kids and no wife, and you're 23 years old, okay, and you have a job making $80,000 a year, and you saved up 100, if I took all your money away because you're over leveraged, like Nima said, and the dominoes fell in the wrong direction, you lost everything, you're 24 years old and you could start over. Big friggin' deal. People don't make money. Like, I know tons of rich people, and they didn't make their money until they were like 55 years old. So you have your life ahead of you. I always say, the younger you are, start early.
Yes,
the less risk you are, just do it.
He does say that to everyone. Well, let's take 50 grand, okay? Let's take 50 grand. I have questions coming in, and guys, I'm not going to forget about you, but let's take 50 grand. If I have 50, how can I start this out?
You give it to the capital fund that Omar wants.
Omar's not here today, so he doesn't get my money.
So Eric, what are your thoughts on that?
What do you do with 50 grand?
Yeah, how do I start? What if I have 50?
So one of my business partners goes to either Yonkers, Monticello.
Racist?
No, gambling. You go bet. You put it on the roulette. Red
so
or black.
Are you telling me I can't do anything with 50
No, you
grand?
can. So you just have to start small. We talked about in some other episodes. We talked about FHA loans.
Mm-hmm.
You could go get an FHA loan, 3% down. You could buy something and build your cash flow that way.
But we're talking about buying crappy properties, right?
Yeah, look,
like really crappy properties and making them better.
I'm going to be the Debbie Downer here. The leverage game requires, if you're just leveraging because you have some money and you want to borrow completely, they just lend on everything. That's called leverage. But if you want to have an asset and leverage off that asset, which is what I think the conversation today is, you need to have an asset that has no debt on it that you can take debt from or equity in it sufficient to go buy more. So if you only have $5,000 and no properties, $50,000, the best case scenario for you is you can buy a $500,000 property because that's 20% down. It still doesn't cover your closing costs. You'll get financed the rest of it, but you're really not going to be on the...
But wait a minute. Let's say I'm going out to... We've talked about this, and guys, we're in New Jersey, so there's Sussex County. My fiance lives in Sussex County. There are cows out there, okay? They're literal cows, and like it's the middle of nowhere. You've been buying in Sussex, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can't we find a $50,000 home that's falling apart that no one wants to touch, no bank wants to touch, and buy that and fix it up and then rent it out?
100%.
That's what I want to do.
But that's not leveraging.
Why not? Then I would put my equity into it.
It's not leveraging to start, but once you fix it up,
right,
and then you get a tenant in there, and now you've bought something at $50,000, put in $25,000, so your out of pocket is $75,000. It's now worth $150,000.
Correct. Then you
go get a new mortgage.
Yeah.
So you recoup your $75,000.
That's what I want to do.
Okay. You now have a positive cash flow. You're making money, and then you take that $75,000 again, and you go do it again. That's called leveraging.
Yeah, but even in Sussex, 50's not going to get you anything.
So we can't address every possible scenario, but they're out there. You just have to look. You could buy a condo. You could buy an apartment.
Right.
You could buy a piece of land. You could buy a fixer-upper house. I bought a house. That was the first thing I did. I found the crappiest garbage house in the best town that I could possibly find. I had $30,000. I bought a house for $130,000. Didn't have any more money. Used all my credit cards to fix it. Then I tried to refinance. They wouldn't refinance it. They're like, you're over leveraged. Your credit, you're maxed out. So I'm like, what the hell? So I had to go get a home equity loan. Then I got the home equity loan. Now I was a great candidate. So now I could go out and do a cash out refi. So I did a cash out refi. I took out $150,000 or $200,000, and I went and bought my first commercial building.
There you go. So
that's how you do it.
You start somewhere, and that's exactly what leveraging is.
Right.
But
can you do this in other states?
And then the domino fell, and my commercial tenant didn't pay, and then I had to eat Burger King for 6 months. But I made it through. There you go. There's your domino.
that was kind of morbid. We thought there was a beautiful end to the story here, and
there is. No, the story's still going. I didn't end yet, but yeah.
That's how Eric was busted through into the big game world of commercial.
Gabriel wants to know, can you do that in different states? Like what you did?
Well, first let's talk about how expensive Burger King got. Because in today's society, I don't think Burger King...
Well, to get a burger, it's like $10. I have kids. To get it, it's like $10. But go ahead.
So,
like,
okay,
it's crazy.
you can do this anywhere because it's math, right? It's not state specific, it's math.
That's for most people. I'm a people person, not a math person, but go ahead.
But if you want to leverage, you have to become a math person because it's plus and minus. You can even do it in the metaverse now. Buy something low, sell high. Buy something, build value when it appraises or it increases in value. Then suck that value back out and buy something else and do the same thing over again. So you can do it in every state, in every country, in every platform possible.
Okay.
It's just a concept of economics and math.
So
And leveraging doesn't just apply to real estate. You could have
cars.
You could be running you could get a contract to deliver donuts to people for $1,000, and then if you find somebody out there who wants to deliver those donuts for $500, you've just now given them that contract. You've just made $500 on top of that. So that's like a form of leveraging.
It's borrowing against something of value to make money on something else.
Yeah.
So in our market, probably $50,000 wouldn't work. But if we're out in Florida or North Carolina and in the sticks, maybe that would work. So you have to know
it
your
can work
area.
in our market too. Look, there's always deals. There's always opportunity. I mean, it's tough for guys like Eric and myself to take our opinion out because we think a certain way now. But yeah, look, everyone started with probably most people start with less than $50,000. So
Okay.
I did.
Yeah. So with 30, right? So yeah, you can do it. You just have to find the right deal, and then you have to find a way that you can build that equity very quickly. When we say we can't do it, no, it's just very difficult because now it's so hard to find good deals that the opportunity to find a diamond in a rough and build value to it is just become a lot more difficult. But it is still possible, you're right. You just need to look harder, you need to focus more, and you need to find that right property that you can do this with because it's all about just timing and value.
Do you need to know about houses? Like, I know, no, but you know a lot about, well, you know more than me, right? About like...
Oh, that's easy. No.
It is easy.
Just
though.
kidding. No, it's
but
very
then about HVACs and like, cracks
so
in something or...
I happen to have grown up in a family that had a lot of building experience. But as I said, there's something you can't learn on YouTube. Omar, who's a personal friend of mine, his family had zero experience in building or houses or any of that stuff. And he's flipped, tens and tens and tens of houses just because he went out, he tried it, and he learned. And did he screw up his first deal? Did he break even on his first deal? But, as I've said before, you have to be in it to win it. You have to just go out and try something. You have to take stock of what your risks are, do the education, ask people for help. Don't just ask one person, ask 5 people. Don't be afraid. If someone doesn't want to help you, then just walk away from them. But ask the questions, The one thing I can tell you almost 100% is never buy something that doesn't need manipulation.
What do you mean?
Doesn't need to be enhanced, either fixed like cosmetically or fixed because it has legal issues like easements or some kind of lawsuits on the property, or
So always buy something that has like problems.
buy something that has an issue.
Okay.
But before you buy it, make sure you know what the issue is.
I think it fixed the issue.
And then make sure you have you could take Nima a deal and he could tell you if an issue is fixable. Like he was just telling me a couple weeks ago, he's like, we have to go buy lots that have what they call flag lots, where they have no access, they're landlocked. And he's like,
we're not gonna be disclosing my new tactic here.
I won't tell you what it is. But so there's ways.
That's my scheme of 2022.
All right, so I'm right. You totally forgot that. But so there's ways to figure out how to do things. You have to figure out what it is. If you see a building that's empty, that's also, it could be a gorgeous building, but it's empty. Maybe they can't figure out how to get a tenant. Maybe you're creative. Maybe you have contacts in the city, or maybe it's vice versa, and you can come up with an idea to fill that building. Now, all of a sudden, you've just done something that prior owner couldn't do. So
guys, what Eric's talking about, the term for it in the industry is value add, right? You have to add value because if someone else already added the value, what are you buying? You're buying something that's already priced at market, right? So you want to buy under market. That means you need to be able to add something to it to give it value. While I'm usually like kind of a pessimist here to everyone, I will say where there's a will, there's a way. If you're willing to learn and you're willing to put in the work, you don't need to know. You just need to be willing to learn. My background, I actually have a bachelor's of engineering from Stevens Institute of Technology. So irrespective of being a lawyer, my dad was big on...
He's like, I'm a lawyer, I'm an engineer, I'm also a heart surgeon. Dad.
I can bring, I can't fix. So, no, I love her. So, yeah, so basically, even growing up, you know, my father had a very large real estate portfolio, has, thank God. And he would always make me work for his workers.
So you also know some stuff about buildings.
Everything. I could build a building from the ground up before I even went to engineering school.
So then what do I do?
So
I have had to call Eric to ask him how to turn on my air conditioner because I didn't know where the button was.
But you're doing the right thing. What you don't know
Can I help you?
Is exactly it's exactly what Noelle just said you should do, guys. You should pick up the phone, call someone who knows and ask them and listen and learn. And learn once so you don't have to keep calling. Pay attention and actually care.
Yeah.
Right? My dad used to always say, you can't tell someone to do something that you don't know how to do because either one, you'll be taken advantage of. Guys, I can't tell you how many times I have contractors come give me bids and they shovel so much bullshit out of their car before they even get to my door that I have a tough time even like walking them back to their car. The stuff these people say is so dumb. And then you respond and they get insulted that you know that they're full of crap, right? And it happens 98% of the time. The 2% of the time it doesn't happen is the people I hire, right?
Mm-hmm.
Only 2%.
No, it's only 2%. And then you know what? They last for like a year and a half before they get full and they're now making money and they start ticking up their prices a little bit and they got to go bye-bye too.
So do you find contractors? You have contractors that you already work with, I'm assuming.
I do. I cycle through them because they usually don't last. And that's because human nature. People get greedy, right? Someone, your friend today, all of a sudden, everyone working for you all of a sudden starts thinking, well, why do you have it? And you make too much money, so they should charge you more money. They don't have a balance of, you know, there's different people who make different levels of money on a transaction. I'm sorry, right? My plumber shouldn't be pulling up in a nicer car than me.
Well, hold on. So Nima's right. You do cycle through contractors. I have some contractors that have been around for 10 years, but majority you do cycle through. Not all of them take advantage, but a lot of them do. A lot of them get jealous of a situation.
That's fair. Yeah, it's not universal.
There are good people out there. There are good contractors out there. There are people that care, and it's super important. Like we talked about earlier, going on YouTube and trying to understand something. Like I just fixed my dryer like I don't know 2 months ago, just because I was like. I just felt like I wanted to try to fix it. I really didn't want to do it, but it was one of those things where you wake up and you're like, I'm going to be a man today and I'm going to fix something. Sorry. I'm sure there's ladies that want to do that too, and I fixed it. And but there's other scenarios where we were trying to fix something else and we couldn't do it, but at least we identified what we thought was an issue. We were able to relay that to the contractor, and it helped eliminate the shit shoveling that you were talking about.
It's a reality. I'll give you guys a very simple example. I can't pull this stuff off at home. I overpay. I don't have a choice, right? Because it's too much work to explain to my wife that I'm getting ripped off, right? And everybody else always knows more. Fine, no problem. But I had these guys wash or dryer, just replaced it, right? Brand new ones come in, paid for the install, all that stuff, right? Who cares? Just get it done. Guy comes in and there was like a leak on the valves that come from the wall. Really simple fix, guys. So you just buy a new one, you take out 2 screws and you put it into new ones. The guy's like, yeah, I can't install your dryer. This whole thing is bad. I'm like, okay, man. I was like, you know what? I was like, I don't have time to do this. How much do you want? He's like, $500. In my mind, I'm like, yeah, you're goddamn mind, bro. I just brand new dryer. I wasn't fixing the dryer. It was the
Why didn't you go out and get the screws?
I told them. I was like, yeah, you know what? No problem. Right? This was spiteful, Nima. Just so he sticks around. Go. Bought the new kit. Walk in. I was like, hey, here it is. I was like, you know what? Can you give me like 2 minutes, please? He's like, yeah. I close the door to the laundry room while he stands outside. He thinks I'm just in there. He's like, what the hell is this guy doing? Opens it back up and it's done.
And then you're like, ha!
No, I'm like, yeah, man, I just don't think I'll need you to do this. It was actually pretty simple. But thank you. Yeah, I was all, a little nervous.
So he waited there for his $500 and didn't get it.
He wanted to waste my money, so I wasted his time.
There's a disclaimer that says, do not try this at home. On the bottom of our screen.
Look, the point is, The point is, and actually I wasn't 100% sure how to do it either. I YouTubed it, like Eric said, but it was pretty simple once I looked at the concept. But look, or I had another guy come in, an electrician, right? He's telling me, oh, this stuff has to get pulled out and blah, 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 blah. I just looked at him, I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? Grab it, rip it, throw it in the dumpster, take the wires that are good and just run it. You'll be here for 2 days. So the guy gave me a quote of like $8,000. So I sat him down and I said, okay, you want $8,000? I was like, how many days do you think this will take? He goes, oh, I don't know. It could take me 3 full days, because he can't really lie about how much time. They're not gonna say it's 2 weeks and they're done in 3 days.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, that's great. I was like, so I sat down and I broke down the cost of the material. It was $600, $700. I was like, so you think that your time, 2 days of your time, is worth $7,000, $3,500 a day, 8 hours a day. I literally broke it down for him. I was like, so I should pay you close to $400 an hour.
How many people on the job?
It's 1 or 2 guys, max needed. I was like, how does that make sense? So I said, no. Right? I'm not rude. I'm usually like, I'll let you know. The guy's still texting me. The job was done. I took a picture and I texted it to him and I was like, dude, I finished the whole thing for $1,200. Right?
And so he missed out. So, okay, so we have to find a honest contractor.
But how do you do that if you don't know? So,
well, you ask.
Yeah,
right?
you gotta ask.
You ask around.
Learn. Guys, be prepared to be ripped off the first couple times, but don't be absentee. Don't buy a property, sit at home and just write checks. Go there every day, watch what your contractors are doing, learn the process. It's not rocket science.
So this is not passive at all.
Ask questions. If they don't want to answer them, that's not the right contractor for you.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, unless it's like 2 a.m. and you have 40 apartments with no heat, then you're kind of screwed and you gotta.
Then you gotta say. But there's always
a way.
There's no such thing as to me. Unless you're worth a couple $100 million and you can put things into groups where it's managed, there's no such thing as passive investing.
Okay.
And don't ever feel threatened if someone tells you something horrible is going to happen, like you have to do this now, or tenants are screaming at you saying, if you don't fix my heat today, you're going to be arrested. Like, none of that's going to happen. If you're aggressively trying to solve a problem, and if someone gets the town involved because you have no heat, and you show them the steps you're taking, and you show them that your contractor was there and the part was ordered and it's going to be another 5 hours, like, most people are normal and will work with you and you're not going to get in trouble. It's, so just take it slow.
And to Eric's point, there should actually be an entire talk on this, not to be bullied by inspectors. Because inspectors, I would say 98%, in my opinion, right, have this power complex. I'm going through a problem right now, and I'm just going to sue.
Right? Because he's a lawyer. He can take care of himself.
On this side, no.
Listen, at the end of the day, do what's right. And if you do what's right, don't be bullied. A lot of these inspectors want to be bullies, right? Do the right job, document it, evidence it, and then when they give you a ticket, have no problem going to trial. Fight them. After a good number of them, they're going to learn.
But that's so easy coming from a lawyer. I have no problem going to court. You, live for court. You are,
Even if I wasn't a lawyer, it's just doing what's right.
All right, so yes, what he's saying has merit, but because it's him, he can get away with things that, 95% of the rest of us can't do. I know a ton of inspectors. There are a couple assholes. Most of them are great. And the ones that are assholes are, a little bit like this. You have to remember there's a lot of people that are always trying to get stuff over on them, so they get frustrated and they're stressed. So my advice would be build a rapport with them, show them that you care about what you're doing, show them that you want to work with them, show them that you want to do the right thing, ask them for questions. They're not always going to help you because there's rules, they can't recommend contractors, but if you're doing a lot of work in the same town, you have to build that relationship.
Well, it's like everything, and just so you know, Lawrence loves you. He says, don't take BS from anyone.
No, that's it, man. You gotta, listen, you may knock me down, but you're gonna have a couple black eyes and missing teeth by the end of it. That's just not gonna be worth it. See you next time. Right?
So I found my $50,000 house. It's literally falling apart, right? What do I do?
Put it together, sell it, and don't put a seller display.
Well, no. I'm going to rent it.
You don't have to.
I'm going to rent it, right? So where do I go first? What do I start on first? What should be my priority? Should I be adding bedrooms to it so it's a better property? Should I just be doing cosmetics?
Kitchen, bathroom.
Kitchen, bathroom. Why kitchen?
First would be how much money do you have to put in?
Okay, I have 50, right? I spent my 50 on it.
So do you have $10,000 left?
I have $20,000 left.
Okay. So then yes, you would typically do a kitchen or a bathroom, but you have to see if you can take something and turn it into a 2-bedroom that was a 1-bedroom, or a 3-bedroom that was a 2-bedroom.
Yeah.
And it's very simple. Let's say there's a bedroom that's 30 feet by 20 feet, right? And all you have to do is stick a wall in the middle and now all of a sudden you can have 2 bedrooms, that may be better than updating that bathroom. Because if the bathroom is in great shape but it's just old, you've now created value by being able to add
another bedroom
because people want that.
And that's going to make your total.
Eric is my dear friend, and he saved me with a disclaimer, so I'm going to save him with a disclaimer
What's
right
that?
now. Just building a wall in the middle of a room and then advertising as 3-bedroom may not
You
fly.
have to put you have to put closets in it. It has to have a window, so you have to identify what a bedroom is.
By local ordinance.
So if you once you identify what a bedroom is, so let's say we can identify what a bedroom is.
It has closets, it has windows, anything else it needs? A door?
And a door.
And a door.
Yes.
Closets, windows, doors
Yes.
equals bedroom.
Yes,
If it's
correct.
if it doesn't have closet, windows, doors, you just call it a bonus room or like a den?
Live and study.
Yeah.
Live and study.
However, there's also situations where it's a den or a live-in study or a bonus room, whatever one of those things, but the clientele in the area, so it depends where your property is. If you're in an urban downtown with a lot of low-income people that are looking for places to live,
Mhm.
they may be okay with a den and putting a day bed in there and calling that a bedroom for themselves. So you have to look at it and see, who's going to
Or,
be there. what's gonna be there.
if you have a
Just
place
always
with-
be
with
honest
kids.
with your listing,
Yes.
Okay.
right? Because if you, I'll give you an example. There is a property that we own, and unfortunately, the first floor does connect to the basement. And upon acquisition, the basement is pretty finished. There's no way to block it off, right? They're just connected. Now, the upstairs is 3-bedroom.
Mhm.
Always listed as many people come and they look around, they're like, this is like a 5-bedroom. There's 2 bedrooms downstairs.
Got it.
There's a window, there's a closet, but it's not. That's a basement, and the city doesn't recognize it. So
Even you can't have a bedroom in a basement?
maybe you can. This municipality does not recognize this.
Okay.
Whatever the reason, right? So ultimately, it's always only advertised as a 3, and the lease agreement is very crystal clear. This is a 3-bedroom apartment.
But do you say bonus room?
You could say 2 bonus rooms in the basement.
You could say 2 playrooms in the basement.
Mhm.
You could say 6-room, 2-bedroom. Nobody cares how many rooms it is, because you can have legally how many rooms you want. Classification of bedroom is a legally defined term.
And bathroom as well?
Yes.
Okay.
I can't tell you how many times tenants have then gone and been like, you illegally rented us this and that, and we show up, always to court and say, or they call the city, you say, look, here's the listing, here's the lease, it's bold in here that says the bedroom is not for living. They choose to put mattresses down there, that's on them. We did not advertise this as a
Got it.
bedroom, right? We can't seal it off, or, we would. It was not advertised and is not condoned. So guys, the whole bedroom game is really great because it adds substantial value, but there's a right way to do it. That's something you have to follow protocol. I'm like, you can renovate a bathroom and no one knows, but adding a bedroom is, something that ultimately you should end up pulling permits for. And
But the question was, what should we do first? So it all
Right.
depends on the situation. There's
you add so much more value with a bedroom.
Yeah.
Guys, a 1-bedroom to a 2 or 3-bedroom is
It's
astronomical
huge,
in rent increase, right?
Right.
You can add 30%, 20% to your rent overnight, and it'll cost you $400 to build that
Which
wall.
means-
Or if you have a half bath and you can turn it into a full bath. If you have a 4-bedroom house with 1 bathroom or 1
Yeah.
full bath and 1 half, and you can somehow take a closet and turn that into, add it to your powder room and make it into a full bath. Now you've just created.
Huge value.
Yeah.
Huge value, right? Because that makes a big difference to your consumer who
Right.
comes in. They don't want to all share 4 bedrooms, share 1 bathroom. Can you imagine?
So, I have bought it, I've rehabbed it, I've added a bathroom and a bedroom. I'm really excited, which has made the value higher, so now I can take more money out of it, right?
Correct.
Correct? Now, do I go find another place? I just take that money and go find another place now?
First you have to refinance it.
Oh, you refi. Okay, so tell me about the refinancing process. What is that process?
So it depends on twofold. You have to have a tenant, and then it typically depends on the value of the rental. So just because you did all this stuff and it appraises for $10 million, if you don't have a good rental candidate in there, you may not be able to pull out the right amount of money.
Yeah.
It's different for commercial versus single family. I don't do a lot of single family rentals. So I think that in a single family rental, you could probably pull more money out, not so much based on cash flow. Whereas if it was like a commercial project, it's all based on cash flow.
Yeah, to Eric's point, I think he's right. So you can get a mortgage on a single family as an investment property, but it's a much higher interest rate than just getting a regular cash out refi. on a
But
property.
that's what I want to do.
'Cause you're just
cash
going-
out refi.
Because then you're just going on the appraised
Right.
value of the property. Now, on occasion, there's two ways to appraise. It's either just the appraised market value, or they can look at your rent roll and cash flow value of the property.
Okay.
Commercial, Eric is right. It's always cash flow because that's what dictates commercial property, right?
But
What's
what if I'm doing single family? What do I want them to look at?
I want you to sell it.
No.
Then leverage it. Leverage the money.
No, I
Go
don't
and buy
want
a
to
couple
sell it.
multifamilies with it.
You're on the wrong show.
We'll do
Goodbye.
a flipping show later. So
Uh,
wait, this appraisal thing. Tell me about the appraisal. Is that what's going to tell me how much this property is worth?
So the bank will send their own appraisal. You can get your own appraisal in advance so you have an idea whether it's worth your
Okay.
time or not. It's going to cost you anywhere from $500 to $1,000, or you can ask your local real estate agent to give you kind of an MMR, and they'll do a market.
CMA, competitive market analysis.
Yeah, and they'll tell you, look, this is roughly what the property costs.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you go to get a mortgage, they're going to send an appraiser out.
What if it appraises too low? Then what do I do?
You're out of luck. You can appeal it. Usually they don't really change it based off of an appeal, but there's like a 10-15% chance.
Appraising low. So if you had an appraisal and you bought it and you added all these wonderful things to it, unless the
But
market
it's going to
changed,
appraise higher.
unless it took you like 2 years to do it and then the market changed, it's not gonna.
Have you ever had anything appraised low and then appealed? Have you ever won an appraisal appeal?
I haven't, but I've heard it happens. So when you're
The urban myth.
Yeah.
It happens.
so that I think is more for when you were buying a property. Like if
Okay.
you're buying a property and it doesn't appraise, I've had scenarios where we would have to go and determine what what products were used, what comps were used to make that appraisal happen,
Mhm.
and then we would argue that those are wrong, and we would provide new ones, and then we could get the appraisal higher. I've had it in commercial where people didn't interpret leases correctly, where you'd have to be like, look, the cash flow is actually greater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To Eric's point, it especially in one families, it's you just depends on what appraiser you get and whether he wants to do a good job or a bad job. And
Okay.
guys, the reason for that is mortgage companies aren't just like, oh, you're asking for $500, that's your purchase price, so we'll give you 80% of it. No, it's 80% of the appraised value. So if it
Okay.
appraises out at $400, they're not going to even, they're going to lend you 80% of that, right? So $320. And now you're stuck in a situation where you have to figure out how are you going to pay the balance or the spread. So appraised value is far more important, especially when it becomes a single family issue. Multifamilies, it goes to Eric's point, it's more towards commercial. That's cash flow because the bank will look and say, hey, if you're making $10K a month off this, you can pay our mortgage of $3,000, right?
Okay.
And there's different types of loans. So you can go to like your big like Rocket Mortgage or Quicken Loans for that single family refi. But you could also go to a small bank, and a small bank is probably going to treat that more like a commercial deal. And they may look at the cash flow. So there's different options.
Yeah. That's a whole, mortgages are a whole other.
But yes, you got to do that, and then once you do that, and then you pull out that chunk of money, and you go do it over.
Then you rinse and
Another-
repeat.
Yes.
Got it.
But again, doing that is risky. So make sure your risk tolerance is sufficiently established to be able to handle if one of your properties goes empty for 1, 2, 3, 4 months.
You should have a 6 months minimum of backup.
Yeah, I'm with Eric on that. I know that sounds like a lot of money and a lot of time, but guys, that's how you're safe. If your property's empty for 6 months, there's either something wrong with the property or it's an apocalypse.
And understand this different. So if you're doing
go into apocalypse,
if you're
you
doing
got a
single
pandemic.
family homes or if you're doing
Right.
apartment buildings where it's residential, it's much
Mhm.
easier than commercial. You know, so you have to know what you're buying.
Even residential, I think your 6-month thing is really,
Well, it depends how many tenants. If you have 5 tenants, 6 months, yes, it's always good to have 6 months. But if you have 1 tenant, then you're screwed 100%. If you have 6 tenants, in theory, if you get
You're only
screwed
screwed a
like the
little.
6th of
Yeah.
you know. So it depends on what it is. But the other option is just have a wealthy family friend or a wealthy father or mother or aunt or uncle who's like, hey, I got your back, go do your thing. If you ever need anything, I'm here. Or take a line of
my
credit.
wealthy friend or family or uncle.
Eric's like, thank you all for showing up on the show
No,
today.
he's like, no.
Please see episode 1 mentors.
Someone asked me for money yesterday. I was like, okay. That's it. But
Not me.
but you can have a line of credit. So if this is if let's say you have that 50 grand,
Mhm.
which you saved through working or however, or you got a gift, whatever you got, you also have a main residence. let's say that main residence has no mortgage, or let's say that main residence has
But that's your home.
it's just an option. You could put a line of credit on there. Okay, a line of credit. It's like a credit card in your house. Okay, that could also be your backup.
Can't do that. I have kids. They need their home. That's for that young person out there that's just them and they're rocking and rolling and they're living the high life.
Or even older. Guys, I'm with you on that, Noelle. So yeah, a lot of people, of course, it's free money sitting there. And if you're doing well, why not build more? So leaving your home untapped is a waste of resources because your home is not an asset, it's a liability because you're living in it. And it's going to appraise in value, but not as much as if you invested that money. So it would make sense to turn it into an asset by leveraging it.
And the other reason is that your home gives you your lowest interest rate. So you'll get your people. I find people all the time that go out and they take a 30-year loan and they want to turn it into a 15-year loan.
But then you lose your home.
You're losing all this cash flow.
And your kids lose their schools, and you lose your spouse eventually, and your whole life goes down the drain, and then all for that high of making some money. Not worth it. It's not worth it.
I think it depends how you do it. I think it depends how you do it. There's caveats to everything. We're happy to, if you reach out to us with questions, we can give you we should make a risk guide with a point system as to what we think. But
it'll start with a stick figure with clothes, and then it'll end up with a stick figure with no shoes.
So a lot of people are asking, yes. So we at the Center for Real Estate Education, recareercenter.com, we have a Find Fun Flip class, which goes into depth about flipping and finding the investment and analyzing the deal and rehabbing the deal. That is a 2-day class. This is just an hour podcast. So you're not going to learn everything. If you want to go purchase that class, please do. And you're going to have 5 different teachers: a flipper, a construction person, a architect, a lawyer, a hard money lender. So go do that. A lot of people online are asking about that. So go do that. But this is just this is wetting your whistle, right? Into this method.
Someone asked if you need a license to be an investor.
Do you need a license to be an investor?
You don't.
No, you need money.
License to kill. You don't need any license. Yeah. You just need to have the chutzpah, the huevos,
and
whatever. What other words?
I don't know. The FCC may come in and crack down on us.
You need to have the courage. You need to have the courage to go out and try it.
Yeah, guys. And again, loop back to what Eric said earlier. I mean, you really should zoom in on it. It's not a stupid thing to just look at YouTube on how to do something. I'm not touting my horn. I'm an engineer. I've built houses. I've been in the game since I was a kid.
He's a superhero by night.
I still go to YouTube because there's things that I'm just interested in how other people do it and how it should be done. And there's so many people who put up videos and walk you through the process and watch a couple, because you'd be surprised how simple something is. It just seems complex because when you look at something and it's just so overwhelming and you're like, I can't figure this all out. But if you watch a simple tutorial or a video, you're not the first person having a leak problem.
Right.
You're not the first person who's having a steam distribution issue. You're not the first person whose roof is leaking. That's not word that, right?
Too much steam.
So at the end of the day, other people have had these problems and other people have fixed these problems. And we live in a society where people thankfully love to share. Worst case scenario, you end up on Reddit. You never know.
And don't be afraid to make it your own. So, if you find 5 different things out there, that doesn't mean that they're right. That doesn't mean that fits your scenario.
Combine it.
Right. It's just if you go out and ask people advice from 5 different people, everybody has their agenda in their mind as to why they're giving you that answer. And that's not you. We're all individuals. We all have our different risk tolerances. We all have our different interests. Mm-hmm. You got to be you. You got to do what works for you. So just go out, get educated, and then make your own decision. And then try it. And you can adjust it. It's not like you have to be okay, this is how I'm going to be for the rest of my life. No. You could be well, I like my bread toasted. But then, next week you can be I don't like it toasted. You can change. It's okay.
Sounds like my kid.
Knowledge is power, guys.
So really quickly, do both of you use property managers for any rentals that you have? I know you have a property manager, don't you?
No, I'm on and off about them, right? So look, property managers take 5% to do what? Answer some phone calls and then
They're the go-between between you and your tenant, so you don't have to deal with the tenant.
there's so many platforms now that exist that act as almost digital property managers that track it better, that are the tenants can pay the rent through the portals.
But what if Mr. Jenkins has a leak in the middle of the night? Then he's going to be calling Nima.
Tim Jenkins?
Yeah.
Oh no, I didn't mean that. He's Jensen, but
Yeah.
I
Look,
just
sure.
drive the
That's a very small-minded way to look at it from my perspective. But I'll deal with that and I'll distribute. But I have a secretary. I'll have my secretary deal with it. To me, it
Most
depends.
people don't have a secretary that they can have.
Yeah,
their
exactly.
property.
So look,
Exactly.
it depends on how many units you have, right? If you have enough units where it makes sense to have a property manager,
Okay.
no offense, you also can make enough money to hire a secretary. If you don't have enough units that you can go and you have 2 or 3, well then you know what? You don't have enough money to be giving 5% of it away, in my opinion.
So
Pick
do
up
it
the phone
yourself.
and deal with it yourself.
And plus, if you don't have the experience, you're better off learning. But yes, there's all perspectives.
Okay.
You know, I've been a property manager. I am a property manager of sorts today because I have a portfolio, but I do have someone like a secretary, but it's not. They're not a secretary, but someone that is a property manager.
Right.
And you know, we've done tons of property management for others. So
Well, I mean, you
There
have
is a-
Alexander Anderson,
yes,
property
so,
management.
so there is a value to property management. They're not all crooks. What did you say?
Oh, is that what you said?
Said
No.
something like that. But,
Disclaimer.
Yeah.
there are
All
a lot-
comments are based off of our opinions and not how we believe about
There
professional.
are a
Thank
lot
you.
of great
Thank you.
property managers out there. Some of them are more risk averse than others, and some of them build in a lot of things to protect them from lawsuits. So again, the more educated you are, the better it is to understand, and it'll help you understand how to make a decision. You know, just remember that no one's going to do it the way you would.
You know what my biggest issue is with property managers?
Hmm.
It's not their actual job. It's the fact that they are usually so busy, or this is not everyone, but they'll pay contractors whatever they want. And next thing you know, you're like rehabbing entire houses because the property manager thinks it needs to be done because they want to, avoid liability.
And that no one's going to be as careful with your money as you are.
No, and I'm getting all these bills where I'm like, you didn't. I could have done this, or I could have had someone do this for a couple $100. You paid $1,200 for this. Doesn't need this.
So typically, a
you lose
property
control.
manager of a bigger type of a complex will get an engineer like him to come in. The engineer is going to write 50 recommendations. One of them is going to say, well, the roof is 15 years old and it's starting to potentially could have problems. We recommend changing the roof. Now, a normal person, if it was your house on your roof, you're like, this thing is fine.
It's fine.
You're going to leave this
You don't
roof
fall
for another 15
Until it
years.
starts leaking.
But these
Right.
property managers, if they're in, let's say, a board situation where there's 30 people that are voting that don't really understand, they can sway that and then make something happen. So
So we are going to wrap it up.
wrap it up.
I want to know final thoughts. Final thoughts. Is this the way that I'm going to build my wealth? Through rentals. Today is about rentals, right? Is leveraging a rental property and rinsing and repeating. Yes or no?
Of course. Look, the longer you have
Oh,
a rental
I
property with
expected
that.
you to say no.
No, look. It is a definition of building wealth. If you do it right, your rent will pay your mortgage. Now, once it's done, it wasn't your money. You've recouped your money, hopefully within 10 years of your initial investment with a little bit extra. And now you have an equity for the next 25 years, just building equity in the property of someone else's money. So in the long-term play, yes. Because in 15, depends on the length of your mortgage, but 15, 30 years, if you buy at the right time, by the time you're 60 years old, 70 years old,
That could be my
you have
income.
a debt-free
Okay.
portfolio, cash flowing you
Mm.
into eternity, and that's something you can leave to your kids with absolutely no debt, and you've now set up the next generation of your family for wealth.
It's all about the cash flow. It's all about the cash flow. The more money that you get to keep after you do something is what it's about. So yes, rental properties are an amazing way to do that. It allows you to have the freedom to live your life and still work, without having to make that dollar off everything you do on your back. So I'm all about it. And remember, I always say, if you visualize it, you can own it. So definitely.
Well, there you go. Those are our final words. Guys, don't forget to subscribe and like the little thumbs up button. And follow us so that way you can see all of the great stuff that we're talking about. Thanks for being with us on the Remix.